Hello, all. Welcome to Thursday morning. Devos today. We're going to talk about gift and gratitude. Gift and gratitude. Hopefully you've been following along with us so far. If you're watching, I would love for you to share in the comment section. Just give a little comment about where you're watching from. I also invite you to think about the things that you are most grateful for during this season. I know it's been hard, it's been difficult for a lot of us. And part of that difficulty, honestly, is just that it's long. It continues. It's, oh my gosh, now the schools have been pushed back and trying to figure out that. And this is 2020, right? And we're a little over halfway through, and what we thought was going to be a short interruption has actually become a disruption. And even as we explore Job this week and Enneagram Type 4, I think often can realize that in the midst of the disruptions, there's also gifts there. So I'm going to be trying to look at comments. I might have to go. I'll see. So if you make a comment, let me know, so that way I can at least see. But as we begin, I'd love for you to share you're watching and the things that you are most grateful for. Hopefully this past weekend, you learned a little bit about Enneagram Type 4. Again, the Enneagram is a tool that helps us understand ourselves, and it is really supposed to help us understand spiritual formation. So it sheds light on our struggles and our pain and our weaknesses, and also what it looks like when we live in health, healing, and wholeness. And we talked about the abundant life that Jesus came to bring, which he speaks about in John 10:10. And that part of this idea is that God is all types, and every type reflects different aspects of God. It was kind of interesting. If you followed along this week, Celia started off, then Morgan, then Eli, and then you get me today. And it's interesting to see the different types reflected, even in their own sharing and experiences, which is beautiful. Obviously, Celia, 6-7 wing, her joy comes through. You get the sense that, she's wrestling with answers and wants, security. But I think most people, when they think of Celia, think of joy. Somebody who is full of life and energy and vitality. Morgan, of course, is an integrate. I can't think of the word. Anyways, I'm not even gonna try. Is a deep thinker, right? And challenges us and invites us in to think through things more deeply. Eli, of course, they're both 5s, so back-to-back 5s, which we're going to learn about this weekend, are all deep thinkers. And I admire 5s so much because they have ways of articulating things that I do not. So I'm not getting anybody. Did anybody share anything? I'll be right back. I'm going to check my phone. All right. So, I just stepped away. Probably not the best thing to do, but it's the thing that I did today. Anyways, so it's interesting to see the different types and experiences through all that. Oh, somebody put an angry face on my sermon this week. Sorry, I don't know why it would have made you angry. Anyways. So much because they have ways of articulating. Oh yeah, there it is. Okay. Rachel, Johnny, hello. Catherine, thank you for that happy early anniversary. Catherine, you're always so good at remembering things. It's a true gift that you have. Kay, good morning. Raymond and Luann, good morning. Rachel, good morning. Debbie Smith, good morning. Thank you all for joining. What are the things you're most grateful for? I want you to think about that. And I'm going to invite you to write that in comment section. So you might even start typing some things or forming those opinions. But we've been looking at the book of Job. Today, we look at what is often towards the end of the book. Morgan mentioned that this is Hebrew poetry. It's very poetic. And towards the end of the book, it's really about Job saying, what is going on with all this circumstance in my life? Why am I experiencing what I am experiencing? God, where are you in the midst of all of this? And then finally, God appears, right? This is what some scholars call a theophany. What do we learn from that? First of all, when I don't know about you, the things that stand out to me is I almost picture Job and God in a boxing match for some reason. And I picture Job kind of whining and crying out, but I mean, who wouldn't in those circumstances, right? By the way, Eli pointed out too, I skipped over this. Eli pointed out that it's most likely the oldest book we have. This is the most ancient writings we have in our scripture. Morgan pointed out Hebrew scripture, and Celia also hit on something that was really interesting because it reads like a story, especially in the beginning. There once was a man from the land of Uz. It reads like a fairy tale. And one of the things that many scholars believe, and that I was taught in my class where I took Job and Human Suffering, was that Job, the book we have, the story we have, was actually taken from other ancient stories and sort of reformatted and thought through for Hebrew people and what it might mean, specifically in this idea of rewards and punishment. So suffering, rewards, punishment, how does God interact in our world? These are the questions that kind of undergird that. So it's not so much, I mean, everything's destroyed in a day. It is like a story, but it's sometimes our story when we feel those things. We have a bad day. Sometimes it feels like when you're down, you just get kicked, right? When it's raining, it starts pouring, everything starts breaking, you lose your job, your car breaks down, relationships are in turmoil. It does feel like that for us. And so I think we're meant to find ourselves in Job. And so Job is wrestling with all of these things, these angsty existential questions that fours wrestle with almost daily, going to the depths of his experience. His friends aren't really helpful, and we'll talk about more about that in a while, in a moment. But God shows up, and it's almost like I was saying, like a boxing match. Job is sort of like they're kind of taunting God, like, "Come on, what's up? What's up?" And then it's like God puts on the gloves, and it's just like bam, 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 boom. Where were you when I laid the foundations of the world? You weren't there. Do you know? And he just goes in and on and on and on. And it's a little bit harsh, for sure. But I think what we're invited to come into is this understanding in this story that God is God, and God's perspective is so much bigger and beyond our own perspective. It doesn't give us answers, which a lot of, I think Celia and Morgan and Eli talked, it doesn't give us answers. We as humans, we want answers, and that's not a bad thing. We really do. Why is this pandemic going on? What's the best way to handle this? What's the best way to move forward? Do I send my kids to school full-time, part-time, online? All of these different things. Like, we want answers. Where is God in the midst of this? Why is God doing this or allowing this? Why is this happening? Who caused this? We want answers, and we wrestle with these things. But learning to rest in the mystery of the unknown, that's the invitation for people of faith. Sometimes we think and we mistake faith for beliefs and faith for knowing, instead of really faith for trusting. So I wanted to read a couple of different sections here today. This is out of a book titled The Sacred Enneagram. It's I think it's my favorite book on the Enneagram I've ever read. It's not the greatest like introduction to the Enneagram. So if you've been reading and learning and you find it interesting, this is a great kind of second book. We recommend, and I think this is a great first introductory to the Enneagram. It's called The Road Back to You. And this would be a great second book, but it connects sort of the Enneagram and contemplative practices. And the contemplative spiritual practices have kind of been what has held me and holds me and centers me throughout life. This idea there actually is contemplative roots within the Christian tradition and within all traditions, but there's something beautiful about the mystical and the contemplative. But I'm going to read what the author writes here. So he says this: we also learn to receive the gift of doubt, as an invitation to press deeper into faith. Moving from belief to faith can cause anxiety. And I suspect a lot of us feel that right now, moving from belief to faith, because belief is one thing, faith is another thing. Faith is trusting in the midst of the unknown. It drums up fear for some people who feel they need to control their beliefs in order to defend them or to rest confidently in them. This is the book of Job. Job wrestles with this idea in that ancient world, which was this. Some people call it a reward punishment principle or a retribution principle, but it was a common understanding this, that if you were righteous, you would be blessed. You would receive cattle and oxen and goats and everything else. And if you were experiencing pain and suffering, then you did something wrong. It kind of makes sense in a cursory level. We still live with this today. When things go bad in our lives, we're kind of like, God, are you punishing me? Did I do something wrong? It still lives in our psyche as humans. But this was a dominant view. And Job really is a book that addresses this. It gives us an answer to that question, not to why suffering, but it basically says Job was righteous and suffered. These things are not connected. So we can try to do things right, and sometimes we are blessed, and sometimes we experience suffering. I'm sure you've experienced that in your own life as well, and that's a hard reality. It's just truth. It's the world that we live in. At its heart, the author continues, faith is making the option for the absurd. What we're really doing is placing all our hope in the idea that these beliefs may in fact be true. Moving from belief to faith is a move toward humility, a confessional move towards acceptance, a humility. Moving from belief to faith holds open all kinds of things. The greatest leaders and mentors in my life, authors from afar, have held an open hand in a lot of different things. Embrace the mystery. We live in a world that sometimes, because we're humans, we want answers. We move towards answers quickly, and then we defend those answers. No, you need to see the world the way this is, because this is the right way to believe and to think, instead of holding open sometimes that mystery. And it can be humbling. And it usually comes with age. Usually it comes with some life experience. I used to think I knew it all. I was pretty confident in a lot of the things I believed, and I was spouting it off and teaching, this is truth, you need to believe this, you need to do this. And I still believe there is truth. It's just I hold it differently because I've changed my views on some things. I used to think something and then I experienced something else. And I think this happens as we age and as we grow. We often, not always, but we often have two choices. We move towards greater humility or greater pride. Greater humbleness and selflessness, or greater selfishness. And we probably all know people in their 70s, 80s, sometimes 90s that are hoarding and angry and selfish. It doesn't, the more common trajectory actually is as we age, we hold open things. We walk in greater humility. We listen more than we speak. So we need our elders for that reason. Teach us how to live this. And he says, ultimately, faith is learning to rest in mystery. But that invitation is a difficult one. So many of us spend much of our time trying to defend our beliefs, to come up with better arguments, to convince someone that the way they think, live, act, or worship is superior. By the way, that's our ego. We all have one. It wants to feel superior. It wants to feel right. In those efforts, we tend to gravitate towards arrogance. Gentle as it is, the contemplative path is also severe, a demanding journey towards humility as we move from belief to faith. And I think Job, this is his story. This is, I believe that I am righteous and I am blessed. And then when that blessing is taken away, his world is turned upside down, and he learns to move from belief to faith, to rest in that mystery. As frustrating as Job can be, it is extremely liberating, and we'll get to that in a moment. But I'm willing to bet that most of the things that you appreciate the most, that you are the most grateful for, have come at a cost. They've come at a price. You've gone through something like Job. You've gone down into the depths of whatever despair, struggle, and you appreciate that. So my wife and I, we got married super young, and within a few months of our marriage, we were separated on the brink of divorce. And my world, like Job's, was turned upside down. And as a four, I mean, I long for a partner. I long for a lover. I long for somebody who would understand me. And when we found each other and connected and got married and then were separated, I didn't know what to do. And I cried a ton, and it was painful and it was hard. We made it through, mostly from the help and grace and humility of others, especially those who had been married for a longer period of time. There is something about wisdom gained through experience, and they were able to bring us through. And there's a lot more detail I could go into that. But she is the best thing that has ever happened to me. And as a four who gets stuck in these ups and downs, and I'm going to get emotional, just like Celia. She started it all. I'll blame her. But we get stuck in these ups and downs. By the way, Celia's birthday was yesterday. I don't know if she cares if I tell you, but I just did. So reach out to Celia, tell her happy birthday. Stacy's birthday is tomorrow. So reach out to both of them. Wish them happy birthday. But throughout the ups and downs, somehow my partner is able to continue to love me and remains steadfast and steady. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate that, and how much we have bonded and grown through all of the experiences. If you've been married for any length of time, perhaps you have a very similar story, and you can share your gratitude for that person. Tomorrow is actually our 16th anniversary, so we're going to celebrate that. As Kathy mentioned, Kathy Sykes mentioned in the comment section, we've been married for 16 years. And so we're going to go out and we're going to celebrate that as we remember the ups and downs and the struggles through it all, but has made us appreciate each other more. And I bet you've experienced struggles and pains in your own life. And I bet you those were the times that you grew the most. Not that you wish you had pain, not that you wish you had, but those are the times that you experience the most shift in your life, where you have seen the world differently because you've come out through that pain to the other side. I'm curious, by the way, as we're talking, even in the midst of COVID, what it will look like for us on the other side. PC, post-COVID. I wonder what we'll look back and say, oh my gosh, I was stretched and grown, and this was hard, and this happened. But man, there was some shifts that happened. Death comes before new life. It's a cycle. We see it all around us. For Job to experience this sort of shift and understanding and appreciation and experience God in that way went through a sort of death and life. And so I'm going to read a little bit of the second part of this. And by the way, many people talk about the contemplative path as a path of continual deaths. And this is why I think it's helpful to talk about death. It's helpful to talk about pain. And yeah, we want hope and joy, but that comes through oftentimes grief. Otherwise, we just kind of bury it down, and the joy we experience is just sort of shallow. So the author writes this. Actually, I think it's a quote, and I don't have the quote person here, but it says this: life best lived is lived through a series of losses, a series of deaths. Not to get too dark here. Death is not meant to be a one-time event at the end of life, but rather a daily experience, which we learn to continually embrace the unknown, step into mystery, and release the need to control. See, that's part of this death and mystery, is that our ego wants control. We want certainty. We want understanding, faith. moves us beyond that and says, I trust in God's goodness and faithfulness and love. I trust that the universe is good. I trust that these things are moving forward, even when we feel like we're taking 10 steps back. I trust. The contemplative path is a practice in death. If you've ever witnessed a moment of death, you know that death is ultimately silent, still, and alone. The practices of contemplative spirituality prepare us for this. The contemplative way thrusts us into the beautiful struggle of embracing the unknown and losing the need to control. And then just down the way, he quotes St. Francis, who says, it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. It is through the experience of tremendous suffering in a relationship that when you come out the other side, you experience life. And I also want to just name and recognize that sometimes you go through those pains and that relationship does not make it through. But I think given time, we experience some life, some joy, even in the midst and through that. And sometimes it takes time. There's no need to rush it. There's no need to move past it quickly. There shouldn't be this, I'm supposed to have joy. I need to be here. No, you need to be wherever you are and to be honest with those feelings and to live in that reality and to ask God, where are you in the midst of this? It's in the questions, not in the answers, that I think we find God. So death comes before life. Gift brings gratitude. When we recognize, when Job recognized, oh my gosh, I don't understand, I don't see, I don't know, but I'm here. I'm breathing. I have life. My life is a gift. That phrase is one of the things, the core sort of convictions that I have to remind myself. As a 4, I find it beautiful and wonderful, and at other times I'm like, life just does not, it seems ordinary or dull or blah or whatever, but life is a gift. Every moment is a gift. Every time I spend time with my children and my family, that is a gift. And when we recognize that gift, that leads us to gratitude. We've had several people bring over food on our move, salads. We had somebody give us a gift card to Grass Burger, and all you can do is receive and be like, oh, that's so great. You thought about me in this season, right? You brought this to me. Thank you. So we recognize whatever is going on in our life, whatever struggles, whatever hardships, recognize however difficult it is, that your life is a gift. What are those things that you are grateful for? I invite you to write those down in the comment sections here below. So gift equals gratitude. Death comes before life. Job is our story, a story that invites us to let go of our desire for certainty, our desire for control, our desire for belief, and invites us deeper into faith, into the mystery, into the unknown, to experience the gifts that are around us. So I look forward to reading some of your comments. Raymond and Luann, 52 years. I am excited to someday say that. So it's so encouraging to see that. Catherine Molly is so sweet and special. She is. And we appreciate your friendship in our life too. So, gosh, I don't know what else to say after that, but hopefully you go with this sense of not heaviness, but the sense of, oh my gosh, today is a gift. In the midst of all the things I don't know, can I rest into mystery and appreciate the gift that is today? So may you go forth from here and experience the gift of today. Thank you all for joining me as we talk about Enneagram Type 4, the best Enneagram type on the system. And stay tuned. Tomorrow, we'll see you back at 9 a.m.